Please, what is that? Don't tell me. It's all in the Reflexes.
You're listening to All in the Reflexes, an unrepentant vivisection of geek news and culture.
It's all in the Reflexes.
With the comedy rock geek Mikey Mason, the Brack of all trades Jeb Brack, Madison Metricula Roberts, and tech guy Steve.
It's all in the Reflexes.
I know, there's a problem with your face.
Hi, welcome to All in the Reflexes. I am one of your hosts, Madison Metricula Roberts, joined by
Mikey Mason.
And this is Tech Guy Steve.
All right, well, Mikey, welcome back to the show. Always nice to have you here.
I still exist.
They do exist. It's like the Santas and M&Ms, right?
Yeah.
The singular Santa. Anyway, so announcements, some stuff coming up. I think I know that Mikey and I are involved with Dragon Con 2018, the largest fan-run convention on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. That is going to be August 30th through September 3rd, which is Labor Day weekend. Man, I'm getting my equinoxes mixed up here. In Atlanta, Georgia, also sometimes called Hotlanta, because we are in the South in frickin' August.
Mostly by tourists. Like, people who live there don't actually say that.
I've heard a few. It's in the same way I think a lot of people from North Carolina, no one actually says kakalaki.
Yeah.
But there's an ironic use of kakalaki.
It's like wearing a fedora. They don't do it like to be sincere. They do it ironically.
No, I wanna, maybe we should talk about this on Problem with Your Face, because I have a complicated fedora situation, because I'm very much one of those people that's like, oh no, fedora is a red flag, my lady.
Oh no,
but,
it is.
Richard, my husband, yeah, my husband Richard actually wears fedoras and other kinds of hats when it rains, mostly, because he's, maybe I've gone to a different place. How are y'all doing this week? Well, let me mention briefly though, if you are at Dragon Con, I know that Mikey Mason will have some shows in the Hyatt Regency in Atlanta, in Hanover FG, and then I think you have a concourse show too, right?
I do, and I'm actually doing 3 shows in the art show in the art room.
Oh, great!
So I'm doing 3 there, and I'm taking part in Mark Gunn's Firefly Drinking Song show, because he's awesome and lets me get up and share his audience. And then Princess Alethea's traveling fantastic magical circus that I can't remember the name of, but it's Traveling Sideshow. That's it. Princess Alethea's Traveling Sideshow. I'll be taking part with Gray Reinhardt and Princess Alethea and a whole host of other fabulous and awesome people. So it's going to be a great week. And then at some point, I'm going to drink way too much rum with Andrew McKee, and that probably will be what day is that? All of them, all of the days.
Yeah, I think you're recording a live podcast with him on Sunday afternoon.
I have a writer for that podcast appearance. I really do. In order to get me to do that, they have to buy me a bucket of rum. It's true.
Oh.
They have to give me one of those big voodoo bucket rum drinks or whatever they are. I don't know what they're called.
By they, you mean the Filk staff, which includes yours truly over here.
I mean Andrew McKee. That's who I mean by they. I'm not talking, I wouldn't do it if the Filk staff had to pay for it. If it comes out of Andrew's pocket, I'm more than happy to drink it and require it.
If anyone is, we're going a little long on this section here, but if anyone is curious about what we are talking about, the Filk track at Dragon Con has a lovely interview series of podcasts called Everything is Filk, and we'll toss a link into the show notes. But it's hosted by Andrew McKee.
Yes.
Another musician and part of the Brobdingnagian Bards, and Mikey has been a staple for the past few years. But you can listen to archives of that and understand what we're talking about.
I'm actually
if you like
the reason
what we do here, you might like it there. So.
Yeah, I'm actually the reason that podcast, that yearly podcast, gets has an explicit tag now.
They did. They told me that I was the reason in 2015.
I'll defer to you.
I don't know. I don't know if maybe they're trying to play us both here, but you know what we're going to do? I've been watching The Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be pitted against each other. We're going to form an alliance.
That's right. And he's going to give the rose to Mark, and then we're both going to be out.
Yeah. Well, we'll start that, but then if you don't get the roses on the shows, you're always able to be pulled back in for a Bachelor in Paradise, or you or I could be the next Bachelor or Bachelorette.
Ooh.
So, but I am really on some tangents here. So, what else do y'all have going on?
I was on tour last week in the Tidewater area of Virginia. I had a couple of great geek shows. They were absolutely fabulous. I stayed with some friends that were just way cool in a house that was friggin' amazing, filled with pottery, ancient Roman pottery pulled from the River Thames, and colonial things. The guy who owned the house, currently his stepson and significant other are living in the house, and they the guy who was the lead archaeologist for Colonial Williamsburg owned this house, and it's his whole collection. I mean, there's a Roman gladius hanging on the wall, and I'm like, can I touch
so
it?
Cool.
I said, can I touch it? And she said, sure. And I said, is it real? She goes, I don't know. And I said, well, now I can't touch it because if it's real, I don't want to break it.
Or get your hand oils all over it, right?
Yeah. So anyway, it was a fantastic week, and now I'm gearing up for Dragon Con. I've got some shows this weekend, but this isn't going to drop in time for anything. It may not drop in time. I don't know if it'll drop in time for Dragon Con, but that's what I'm doing. I'm gearing up for Dragon Con.
Cool.
Well, that's why people have to listen. They have to subscribe to Everything is Filk, and then they'll get the roundup from your live podcast right on site. So
true.
Well, I've actually had a lovely week. My friend Ravens from Snow from Twitch, who's just someone I met randomly on the internet, came and stayed in my house for a week, and I just I don't know. I love meeting people on the internet and then deciding I don't know about y'all, but I really feel like I can recognize my people. I see them and I'm like, you're one of my people, or you're one of my people.
They have no fedora pictures. Come on in. I'm sorry.
Well, how about a trilby? Okay, but if you're wearing a trilby, you can stay on the porch.
Yeah, we allow trilbies. Yeah, trilbies are fine. Trilbies and bowlers, A+. But anyway, no, it was just really fun. He's a multi-instrumentalist and musician too. He came to Geek Gala last year with some of our other performer friends, and no, it was just actually really cool. And it made me feel really good about the fact that the internet does a lot of bad things, like let Nazis meet each other, but it does a lot of good things, like let weirdos like us meet each other. So
yes.
That's kind of my positive spin on that. Steve, how are you doing this week?
Good. We passed through the busiest part of the year at school, and so now that everything's locked down for the kids to come back, I'm free to take a vacation, which is what my wife and I are doing next week.
Nice.
She's having a birthday, and we're going to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So,
well, happy preemptive birthday, and enjoy New Hampshire. I don't know what there is in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but I'm sure it's better than not going on vacation. I'll guarantee that almost. Well,
yeah, we'll have fun.
You're close to Maine, though, right? That has lots of lobsters. Are there New Hampshire lobsters, too? Or?
I'm sure there are, throughout the region. Yep.
They have a different accent.
Yeah, they certainly do.
The Stephen King style Maine small town lobsters versus the New Hampshire lobsters. Well, with that, I think it's time to go over to some news.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
In memoriam, actress Barbara Harris passed away at 83. Oh. She's most well known for Freaky Friday and Family Plot, but she's been in many, many things. She had an opportunity to work with Alfred Hitchcock, Francis Ford Coppola, and Robert Altman, among others. So there. You probably know her, though, from the original Freaky Friday.
Yeah. Heavy sadness. Well, let's get to a different kind of sadness, or perhaps it's a cause for jubilation for some people. The Big Bang Theory has announced that it is going to end after its 12th season in 2019. CBS said the upcoming 12th season will be the last, and it is, in fact, the most popular comedy on television, and it is a cause great division among geeks. Some people call it geek blackface. Some people just don't find it funny. Other people really enjoy it. I look at it and think, you know what? This brought a lot of geek culture for, in whatever way it did it. It brought it into the mainstream, and we can buy more of the products that we like, more comic book related products, more cartoon related products, more geek related products. All of it is more bankable now because Big Bang Theory put it into the spotlight. And you don't have to like the show to enjoy the dividends of that show having been on the air.
Right, and you can appreciate some of those aspects that you just said, but also feel like it's continuing to double down on portrayals of toxic masculinity or problems in the way that geeks are represented in media as stereotypes. It can be both things.
Sure.
And I think that's what makes it so tough. Is like, on the one hand, exactly like you said, it's a representation of these things being bankable mainstream items, but that doesn't mean that it's immune from some of the normal sitcom pitfalls.
Right. And honestly, this is just me as being me, but asking for a deeply well thought out, nuanced portrayal of anything from a sitcom is probably asking too much. They have less than 30 minutes to get people to understand the intricacies of their characters, set up a problem, solve the problem, and end it with everybody laughing, ha ha ha, and still fit in all their commercials. So,
sure,
nuanced portrayals aren't
shorthand that they.
Yeah. You don't have to agree with the shorthand. You don't have to like it. And I'm of the mind that if you don't like it, don't like it. You know what I mean? Totally. Yeah, but I also think that the show, having been on the air, has brought some dividends to geek culture, whether or not it has been an accurate or even fair portrayal of geekdom in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Speaking of problematic TV shows, some of you, especially if you have young ones, know Peppa the Pig. It's a cartoon for kids. China's censors had decided that it was not appropriate for the Chinese audiences. It became known as pushing revolution or resistance. So bootleg copies and streetwear were showing up in China. The whole shot. And then, ironically, they changed their position, and they've now agreed to allow a showing of a Peppa the Pig. And I think it's a movie, but again, it's kind of self-serving since it's produced by China's own Alibaba Pictures, which is a great big giant firm there, partially owned by the state. But it's Peppa the Pig, the gangster, Peppa Gangsta Pig. So,
man, you know what? I've only watched a couple episodes of Peppa Pig. My youngest is 13 now, so Peppa was on TV when he was little, and I watched a couple episodes, and it wasn't inciting revolution. She is a headstrong, independent child, so I can see why they might, she wants to think for herself and be her own person, and I can see how a totalitarian regime might find that threatening. But gangsta?
Yeah, but did you see this quote? The quote is, after all, no matter how gangster Peppa Pig is, it cannot be allowed to destroy children's youth and go beyond the rules and the bottom line.
Okay. Makes you scratch your head. That's it.
Yep.
It makes you...
I think... I'm interpreting the news thing a little. It's not that they're making a joke that she's gangster, right? Like, it's not actually about gangster Peppa Pig, right?
I hope so.
No, okay. Well, talking about gangster Peppa Pig, most of my experience with Peppa Pig has been through those weird, badly animated YouTube videos that are targeted to game
where they just
the
randomly
algorithms.
pull cartoon characters.
Yeah, and teeth, they're pulling out. There's one where Peppa Pig goes to the dentist, and it's horrifying. So that's most of my experience with Peppa Pig. So perhaps I am somewhat skewed. in what reality
Your
is
youth
here.
has been ruined. They were right. China was right all along.
My youth, I was 30. I mean,
You know who else has probably fallen prey to those weird videos? Brendan Fraser. That's why we haven't seen him lately. His image was, no. He just was out of public sight. He's back. He's coming back to.
That was dark because he actually, there was an interview with him where he talked about dropping out of film stuff because of related like sexual harassment. And some other stuff. Yeah, so
well,
not to like.
I made light out of ignorance. So
I'm sorry. It was just like, oh no.
But he's back. Apparently, he's back. He's
Yes,
going to be on the small screen as Robotman in a DC Universe TV series for Doom Patrol. If you've never read Doom Patrol, it's a very interesting concept for a story. You have people who may not totally be good guys, but they're all dying, and they all have a limited lifespan, and they're working for a government company. He's apparently a government organization. He's going to play Robotman or Cliff Steele. That's his secret identity.
That is a superhero name.
Yeah, Cliff Steele. But it's one of the leads, and you know what? I've always liked Brendan Fraser in the movies. I even liked, what is the one where he sold his soul to the devil? It's basically Faust.
Oh, Bedazzled.
Bedazzled.
I like that. That was a good movie.
Oh, that was actually, he's extremely charming and likable.
I even liked Encino Man. And that's Pauly Shore and Sean Astin and Brendan Fraser. So I'm happy to see him back. And of course I watched all of his Mummy films, because there were no Mummy films after that. Tom Cruise doesn't exist. He's a figment of my imagination.
Oh, bless the dark universe. It tried so hard.
So,
No.
I'm happy to see him back, frankly, because I really dig him.
So, wait, just one point of note. It's going to be a live action series?
Yes. I didn't
So
think that
they-
either because the image they used is a cartoon.
Right, but
Apparently
they don't,
that's a still from the comic.
yeah, they don't have any actual concept art or production art from it. So yeah, it's going to be a live action series, a lot like I won't say a lot like, but Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, Arrow, something along those lines, and it's on Warner Brothers TV, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I just want to add, I looked up the article about Brendan Fraser, and it claims that he was the victim of sexual harassment.
Oh, yeah, no, I want to be clear. Yeah,
Yeah.
he experienced these things, and
they
was
did not listen to
disillusioned
him or
and-
treat it seriously.
And that sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, because he seems like in anything I've read with him, he just seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, stand-up guy.
So, yeah. Well, talking about revivals that are maybe a bit more cheerful, just based on other stuff, there's supposed to be a Veronica Mars revival being picked up by Hulu, or in the works by Hulu, starring Kristen Bell and I think some other original cast. So this would be the second Veronica Mars revival since the original show aired, because there was the movie that came out in 2014 that made almost 3 times its Kickstarter ask budget.
Yeah. It raised $5.7 million via Kickstarter, which at the time was the biggest ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's still pretty up there, I think, even with.
I have a coworker. Him and his daughter were fans of Veronica Mars, and so he put in to the Kickstarter, and they got all the stuff, the script, the signed script, the video, everything that he put in for, and then they got to go see it in theaters. They had some special deal where, if you were a backer at a certain level, when it's shown in the theater in your area, you could go on the opening night and blah, blah, blah. I don't know all the details, but he was able to take his daughter there, and he really, really enjoyed that they got to be part of it.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's fun. It feels good to be part of any kind of like community campaign or movement.
But it also
I
tells
think.
you how much beloved the story of the series is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that familiar with it, other than I know that a lot of my friends are very into it. And like with some of this other stuff, it's like I can appreciate that even if it's not my thing, because I like seeing people excited about the things that they care about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this time there is no crowdfunding because it's it looks like it is being funded by Hulu.
Yeah.
So good for Veronica Mars. I mean, obviously there's something about the character that really resonates with people, and it's awesome that it's something that they can keep coming back to and readapting with the original cast.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
I'm just saying, I'm surprised it's been 5 years since the Kickstarter, right? Since the Kickstarter ended, it's been 5 years. So it coming back now is a surprise, but it's a wonderful thing that we live in a world, we live in the future where such a project can get put online and people can show their financial support, and the powers that be can see, yes, there is enough of a fan base for this. There were 91,000 or something backers on that project and over $5.5 million. So we will occasionally get the chance to shape the media we consume instead of just relying on companies to do it for us.
And there's more outlets than just 3 or 4 networks.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, and the thing is, too, that's, I think, different now is a lot of these, streaming services and other kinds of content producers, YouTube, Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, I mean, they have actual money.
Oh, yes.
They want to make money, but they also just have money to, like some of the stuff that Netflix throws out, it's like, I mean, you can, since they are the distribution service, too, I mean, there's a lot of good vertical integration there. I'm sure there's lots of hashtag synergy. So
yeah. See, speaking of well-loved series, 25th James Bond is coming out with Daniel Craig. But the hubbub this week is that Oscar-winning director Danny Boyle is quitting. All they said is the usual creative differences. So producers of multi-million pound, as in British pound, franchise reveals today news of the split, and Daniel Craig made the announcement. And I believe Daniel Craig is one of the producers. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he asked him to run around too much, and he's an old guy now.
I don't know. Daniel Craig at the end of the last Bond, the 24th James Bond film, said that he had no interest in continuing the role, and then I guess he got shown the script and he had some time off to heal his body because, it's a very labor intensive, very physically intensive role. And I think
in the media, though, I mean, even after you're done filming, they ask these actors to spend like 18 months doing hundreds and hundreds of interviews to push it. And he's like, I was so sick, I just wanted to get out of that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I've genuinely enjoyed the franchise in ways that I didn't as a kid since Daniel Craig took over the role. And so I imagine that Danny Boyle, I don't know for sure, I'm imagining Danny Boyle was the director of those. So I don't know. But I hope the next Bond films, whoever directs them, whoever writes them, whoever is the James Bond, continue to be at least of the same quality as the last few. Because I really dig them.
And fun. I like the aesthetic in some of the modern ones. It's there's still a lot of machismo, but it's like they're just fun. They're like fun, suave action movies in a way that is interpreted for kind of modern audiences. In a way, when I watch old Bond films, even some of the like Pierce Brosnan stuff, it's like it's just hard. It just feels so dated already.
Yep.
In a way that I think a lot of the Daniel Craig ones don't feel as dated as fast, and some of that's obviously time, but. They seem to be just very conscious of making it fun and kind of kitschy, but not in a campy way.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, hey, I heard this weird thing that MTV used to show music videos.
Yeah, back in the day.
Do you guys remember that?
You're
Was
crazy.
That real?
No, that never happened.
My brother and I would watch that for hours.
Yeah, we would.
You could just leave it running because they were only 2.5 to 5 minutes each. And so you could watch, just like listen to the radio, and they would cycle through them. So every 45 or 60 minutes, you'd begin hearing the same music videos over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was extremely watchable. It was fun.
And then the mid to late 80s, they started showing TV shows like The Monkees and The Young Ones and...
Oh, like stuff that they were pulling from syndication from...
Yeah, they had original game shows. Didn't they have the remote control?
Yeah, then they started...
Singled out.
They started producing their own content, and then they started producing their own TV shows, and then they slowly phased out music video content. And their first shows that they put together of their own were all music video related shows like Headbangers Ball or something like that. And,
that's right.
or Yo MTV Raps, because in the late 80s, there was an underrepresentation of hip hop and rap music on MTV. It was primarily aimed at pop and rock. Then we started making the joke that it became Yo MTV Doesn't Rap as the special show. And then, then all of a sudden it's like they're not even playing music videos at all. So yeah, you're not kidding. They used to play some music videos.
Well, with that, I mean, some of it is I mention it because I just know, like, growing up, Madonna rolling around on the stage in the bride dress.
Oh,
like,
sure.
For the Video Music Awards.
Like a virgin, baby.
Yeah, and then in my generation, when she makes out with Britney Spears, I think, was Madonna and Britney Spears make out, that was very big in my...
Yeah, I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Yeah, my budding adolescence there. But that was the MTV Music Awards, and apparently, like, they thought last year was the lowest viewership ever, because it was aired opposite one of the Game of Thrones finales. But this year, it managed to exceed that low by cracking a new low, particularly in that 18 to 49-year-old demographic.
The ones with the money.
Because it was up against reruns of Saved by the Bell.
Basically, I mean, so I don't know. And I think some of the reason why people just don't care about the Video Music Awards is, like, one, a lot of the award shows, like the Grammys, the CMAs, the Oscars, the Emmys, like Golden Globes, like they're all kind of flagging, except for the Tonys, which have been growing.
Interesting.
But
I can't, and especially since Neil Patrick Harris took over as the host, because that's been fantastic.
I mean, he hasn't done it for a couple years. Year before last, it was Kevin Spacey.
That's right. Well,
that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that wasn't a good one.
But I think Neil Patrick Harris did it the last 2 years. I think last year the hosts were Sarah Bareilles and Josh Groban. Which was very milquetoast. It's a situation.
They need bring back Neil. That's what we need.
We do love Neil. Neil's an excellent host because he's hammy and
he's super talented.
He's very theater.
Oh, and super talented,
and incredibly charismatic
and cute.
He's very cute. Yeah.
He
my
is.
God. What was it in 20? No, it was like 2007 when he was doing Hedwig on Broadway,
yeah.
And then he was hosting and he did the sugar daddy number from Hedwig, and he's like running all over the stage in his heels and like jumping up on like the crate amps and stuff. Anyway, I'm really into the Tonys. I subscribe to CBS All Access every year.
Just so you can see the Tonys, yeah.
Yes. Though this year, while we were subscribed, Richard watched all of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
But just a brief aside. A couple years ago when a lot of my friends are really into Hamilton. They are just very into Hamilton, and I like Hamilton fine. But I was like, finally, this is the year that my friends will actually, anyone I know will come to my Tony's watch party. And I was like, for the Hamilton year. So I had a Hamilton sing-along where we just put on this, like a karaoke version of the soundtrack, and we all sang along to the Hamilton soundtrack for 2 hours or 2.5 hours or whatever it is.
That is hilarious.
And then I was like, all right, now we're going to watch the Tonys, and everyone left.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if people, no one cares about the Tonys, and it's like, But anyway, that's the thing. So anyway, no one watched the Video Music Awards on MTV.
That was the year Leslie Odom Jr. won the Tony, right?
Yeah, he got it. Yeah, he got it for actor in a musical.
Yeah.
So, who's fantastic. But anyway, I will Tony's later.
Taking a left turn. I've never seen this before in my life, but there's an article that says a Nigerian farming community claims that the men and women speak different languages, as in different words for the same item.
Yeah.
It's not clear exactly what proportion of the words are different, not all of them. Obviously, many of the words are common between the two. Or how it was linked to traditional roles is just not clear. But this anthropologist says it's almost like two different lexicons. And then they give an example. There's a very short list where a dog, a man would say it Abu, and the female would say it Okwakwi. And they're not even similar. They're totally different words. It's just the strangest thing I've ever heard of before.
That's it's cool though. Linguistics is cool.
Yes.
And having a male and female divided language isn't unheard of. I know there are several Native American languages where there are instances where people who learn the language, for instance, men who learn the language learned from women, and they were told they speak like a woman. I think that was actually a big theme in Dances with Wolves was another thing. There is a language. I just listened. There is an episode of. It's a podcast I listen to. Brain something. I'm drawing a blank. I don't have enough brain. Whatever. But where they talk to a linguist, and the host's name is Shankar, and he talks with this linguist who was in a village.
Oh, I know who you're. I know which one. It's one of the NPR's ones.
Yeah. And it's just absolutely. It's Hidden Brain is the name of the podcast, but she's talking about she's. Very talented and very in-demand linguist, but she was stationed at this one place, and I can't remember where it was, but they don't have a word for left or right. Their directional words are all empirical directions, north, south, east, west, northwest, north, south. And so they would say, they wouldn't say, for example, you have a spider on your left leg. They would say, you have a spider on your southwest leg. And if you didn't know what direction was southwest, you're looking around for spider on both legs. And, she talked about the kids, the children thought she was literally stupid because she didn't know what the directions were, because they were brought up from birth to give empirical directions with everything.
Just with a sense of it.
Yeah. So language is fantastic and complicated and amazing. And I also learned on the Hidden Brain podcast that conservatively, you could say that out of the 6,000 plus languages there are existent in the world today, roughly only about 1,000, maybe a little more, have a written language.
Interesting.
That's mind blowing. I mean, think about it. Everything we consider a language that we recognize as language, almost all of it, we know that it has a written language, because and we know that there are languages that don't, but the ones that we all interact with, that we all accept as languages, the ones that get taught in school, they all have a written language, So,
and the problem with your face, I will tell my language story.
Cool.
Which I believe it or not, I have one.
Well, speaking of awesome,
we are accumulating stories.
Let's end this on something awesome before we go into the final topics of the show. Lego finally gave Lando Calrissian his Cloud City Lego set. It's more than 2,800 pieces, and
it's amazing.
I shouldn't have to say more than that. I won't say more than that. If you're a Lego fanatic, you will either A, already know, or B, already be looking it up simply because I said this. Lego gave Lando Calrissian his Cloud City, and it is, I see twin pod cloud cars. I see, was it Forlom? I see Slave One. I see, man, I see the bank, the room where Han Solo pulled out his blaster and immediately shot at Darth Vader. I mean, oh my God.
There's the column. There's the column where Luke and Vader fight.
Yeah, the spire there. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything.
There is the chamber where they put him in the carbon freezing chamber is there. I mean, come on. This thing is I don't.
It's like when you say that's a playset.
You know what?
That is the dream house.
That's what it is.
It is. It's the Lego
house.
dream house. That's Lando's Barbie dream house for Lego. That's because, man, I don't buy these sets, and if I did, I probably would have bought the Death Star or Millennium Falcon, and especially the Millennium Falcon. But I so want this set. I want this set. Anyway, yeah, there we go.
There's a lot of story in there.
Look, you interpret want however you want. Look this set up. If you haven't seen it yet, look it up. You probably, if you're a Lego fanatic, you probably have already done it while we were talking.
On that note, let's see if there's any trailers to trash and or tout.
This will make for one epic trailer.
So it does.
So who has seen this?
You know, I hadn't, and I like Netflix. I don't consume as much media as I used to, but you posted this link and I watched it and set it up, man, because I found this very engaging. But go ahead and set it up.
Well, my favorite part is the FARC headline. I get a lot of our links from FARC.com. Kind of a link aggregator site. Anyways, their funny, sarcastic headline was, Netflix's new supernatural drama is a little bit The End of the Effing World, a little bit X-Men, a little bit 13 Reasons Why. Oh, it's got Guy Pearce as a nutty professor, so there's that. And I thought that was a pretty decent explanation. It definitely is young people who escape from some kind of abusive environment, but they have a weird power. At least the only power I could tell was like they could take the shape of other people. Is that what you guys got?
Or body switching. Maybe,
oh yeah, or body
I
switching.
couldn't tell if it was shape shifting or like
body
consciousness switching. Yeah.
But
it's called The Innocence.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I watched the trailer for it and I was like, the aesthetic, very solid, very consistent looking from the trailer, but I can't quite tell what's going on other than they're on the run.
Well, and I kind of like that because it gives you a sense that this is going to be the thought, or this is going to be the impetus behind it. They are running. There's a chase. There's, and there's obviously some sort of facility, and there are two kids who want to be free of the hold of the facility or whatever. And I like that they aren't answering a lot of questions because sometimes you watch a trailer and it just, why bother watching the movie now?
Yeah, exactly.
Or watching the TV show.
They literally show you the central mystery right in the trailer.
Right. So
yeah, but not this case, man.
I like it that it held some stuff back and it raised more questions that it answered. And Guy Pearce is a solid actor. I can't say that I recognized anybody else in the whole cast by sight. No. So
yeah, I like him. He's in another upcoming movie. Maybe we take it another week when we talk about trailers. But he's in a kind of a really dark, violent western called Brimstone. So he's got a couple things coming out. So are we touting this or trashing it? You think it's worth watching?
I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, it's only 8 episodes, at least season 1, so it's not a huge investment. And if it doesn't seem to go anywhere or it's tedious, whatever, you could bail pretty easy. So.
If it's tedious over 8 episodes, that means something.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, I've seen some critiques of the Marvel Netflix series, and the biggest critique of them is that they insist on going 13 episodes, which could be.
And they don't have 13 episodes worth of story.
Yeah, and I know that they have 2 arcs. They each season has 2 arcs in it, but they could tighten them up, you know?
Exactly, and guess where the season slags? The middle.
Right.
When you're finishing up arc 1 and haven't ramped up arc 2 yet, you get, 2 or 3 boring episodes in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. All right, well, Steve, are you watching any weird anime this week, too?
Steve はとってもくだらない人でアニメを見るんです。What weird anime is Steve watching this week?
I am. In fact, I finished a 24-episode series called Record of Grand Crest War. Wow. It is a completed series. It has a beginning, middle, and end with a nice denouement at the end. I would say, I'm just estimating, but the time period is kind of this fantastical version of the 1700s. They have, like fencing and swords and kind of an idea of lords, over protectorate areas, not really big nation states. It seems to be collections of territories and, principalities. But it also has, demons and magic and werewolves and vampires and witches. Oh my! I really, really liked it. I liked what it stood for. I liked again, it wasn't the main character, it was the fated one with the magic blood and the prophecy. It was exactly the opposite. He was somebody who, started with almost nothing, and by will and good intention and, building alliances, he was able to make something of himself. Huh. And the biggest turning point was in the first episode when he meets this mage, which is this pretty young woman who's incredibly smart and talented. And she likes his heart, like the thing he represents is what she wants to back. So as soon as they become allies, and this is to me one of the funniest parts of the series, he literally I don't know how I'm going to achieve my goals, but I want to do this and this to protect my homeland. And literally within a couple episodes, he's like, how did I get up here already? You know, like, he's already risen in rank like 4 times and owns this giant territory because she's so smart. And so he even says, like, I'll just follow whatever you want, you know, we'll do it your way. It's just a really amazing series. Unlike other anime, and I want to point this one out, it's got couples, and I know, sit down for this, I don't want you to be rocked. They kiss. Couples actually kiss.
What? I'm scandalized.
Exactly.
You mean they don't even nosebleed instead?
No nose bleeding, no, none of that stuff. And I think it's because they're not portraying high school students. They're not 16 to 17. These are adults in a fantasy setting. But yeah, I mean, it's also, it's a beautiful story. It's got tons of tragedy. There are whole episodes where it's like the characters you really, really like and respect don't have good endings. That it's kind of tragic. So it also means that you're never sure, well, who exactly is going to survive. And then when you see the ones that make it and kind of have their moment, it feels really good. I'm telling you, it's an extremely well written show.
Yeah.
So I watched the first episode.
And what did you think?
It looks really good. I'm gonna watch more of it. It's, I think, something that Hubs and I will probably watch together because it's definitely up his alley too, with like medieval tragedy angst. Like that's all very good for
exactly
for us.
Also, it's not just, it has these big battles with kind of a magical overtone, but I think the biggest thing is these is the politics and the scheming and alliances and loyalties, betrayals. Like that's really, really, amped up to show like how they, like why somebody would make this decision, sacrifice an ally and switch sides in order to get ahead. And like, I thought that was very well done. Again, as somebody who likes tabletop role-playing games, this series would teach you quite a bit about how to add those elements to a game. Like if you don't know how to put this kind of politics in a game, this series would teach you that. I think they just do it amazingly. And one other thing I'll add is that it has a single sex scene, which is kind of weird, and I'll talk about it in the problem with your face portion of it, so I can be slightly graphic. It's just weirdly out of place. So I put a lot of thought into like why did they do that? What was their point? And there was a point, but other than that, there really wasn't. Everything else was very modest. It was curtains closed, they wake up the next morning, that kind of thing.
Cool. Well, I mean, if they're going to put it in, it needs to be there for a reason. Gratuitous stuff, unless it's like special effects violence, I don't want to see. Or maybe, all right, boobs. I'll go with gratuitous boobs. All right, gratuitous sex scenes and boobs and violence. But other than that, all right, gratuitous pretty much everything. You know what I hate? Tasteful side boob. All right.
Just going to let that hang in the air there.
Yeah. On that note, that sour note.
Sour like side boob sweat.
Oh, don't think you're going to make me like it with your magical words here. Wait. Anyway.
I'm not trying to sell you anything, dude.
I think that's it for our episode.
Yeah. We've talked for an hour-ish. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job. So this has been all in the Reflexes. I do want to mention that we have a sister podcast that is available on our Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month you get twice the content. Steve, is that right?
That is right. We always direct everyone to our website, aitrpodcast.com. We have show notes. You can listen through the website if you want, or you download the episodes, but we have links to all the media that we mention, and of course a link over to our social media like Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. Last week, truly, I think was one of our best. There's a problem with your face, Patreon specific episodes about how weed keeps young people from joining the SCA.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So
you're just saying it was the best because I wasn't there.
Oh, no. You could have contributed so much, but you will be contributing to this week's episode. But on that note, I have been one of your hosts, Madison Metricula Roberts, joined by
Mikey Mason, and
this was Tech Guy Steve. See ya.